And we are live. Hello, my name is Terry Thompson, and I am the host of Unbreakable Stories, along with my co-host here, Bonnie. And tonight we are going to dive into what do you do when you're overwhelmed. Oh my God, today was one of those days to where it was like everything just seemed to come all at once, and it was like, here's this, here's that. We're going to take up this much time here. We're going to take up this much time there. This task, that task, unexpected phone calls, all these things that tend to kind of get at you whenever you're an entrepreneur, whenever you are trying to make your business happen, when you're trying to do different things. Sorry about that. The volume, I thought I had the volume turned off on the other one, but I guess it wasn't. So anyway, little audio break here from the other stream. Once again, it's one of those days. It is definitely a Monday today. Bonnie, how you doing?
I'm good. I confer. I actually had to double check the calendar today because I was like, and not because I didn't know what day it was, because I was like, is Mercury still like stuck in retrograde? Because that was supposed to be over a week ago. But the technical difficulties and stuff I've been running into for the past few days, and then today we had two, I'm gonna call them minor crises, because they were things that were easily solved. It was just the timing of them was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. My son got left at school today, somehow didn't get on the bus. And luckily my husband just got a new car, new to us, and was out, but was local and could go pick him up, because otherwise I was in the middle of my class that I've been telling you about where attendance is basically mandatory. And I'm trying to not be on the phone, but be talking to the school, because like the school calls, I don't not answer the phone. Anyways, it was one of those days. Everything worked out. But it really was about remaining calm. Like the first thing I told myself was, yeah, he's stuck there, but he's safe. It's not like they dropped him off at the wrong bus stop, like on his first day of kindergarten when we didn't know where the hell he was. That was fun. But so the first thing I'm gonna say is when the feeling of overwhelm kicks in, staying calm is really the first thing you have to keep yourself in check with, because otherwise, it's really hard. Like you can make fast decisions when you're not calm, but they're not always necessarily the best decisions. And so, yeah. And I'm also want to shout out, thank you to a friend. I'm going to not have this person remain anonymous, but this person helped me out of my second mini crisis, which would have caused a snowball of other problems had it not been taken care of immediately.
Yeah. And shout out to Zan. So Zan is here. I see in the chat Janine has joined the chat, and both of them are waving and saying hello. So I just want to send a quick shout out to Zan and Janine. Thanks for joining the show. So tonight we are talking about how to stop being overwhelmed. And Bonnie just shared an absolutely amazing piece of advice there. So for me, it's when I was in the military, it's a firing technique. So there's a firing technique in the military when we're on the range and we're shooting a weapon. We have this little technique called BRAS. It's really interesting, called BRAS, right? BRAS, breathe, relax, aim, squeeze. And it's one of those things that I kind of modified it, tweaked it, changed it, because I love doing that. I love modifying, tweaking, changing things. And I use that exact same acronym to really, because I know Zan loves acronyms, and I'm playing on the words here for just specifically for Zan here. And so BRAS, BRAS, so that's breathe, relax, adjust, speak. And here's exactly what I mean by that. Breathe. So if you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, the first thing you want to do is breathe. And here's exactly what that does. That sends oxygen to your brain. That way your brain can be well oxygenated, well ready to kind of relax. Because when you get oxygen within your brain, that gives you that ability to relax. When you relax, that gives you the ability to slow down before you overreact. Because what happens is that if you allow your 15-pound mouth to override your 5-pound behind, it's one of those things that you can get yourself in a whole lot of trouble. Now, notice how I did kind of breathe. I relaxed. I kind of adjusted. And then I spoke when I said that. So Bonnie laughed beforehand because she knew what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
once again, that's a real live example of breathe, relax, adjust, speak is what I just did right there. So what I did was as I breathed, I relaxed, I adjusted my thought patterns, because if I speak with original thought patterns, something else might have been said, something negative may have come out. And Bonnie, she can truly testament that I can say some pretty negative things, just as I know that she can as well too. So it's kind of one of those things that when you breathe, relax, you adjust, and then you speak. That allows yourself to really stay more positive, because here's the thing: when people get at you, they get under your skin. Situations tend to happen. Things tend to happen. You can really react instead of act. And when you breathe, relax, adjust, speak, that is a formal way, or not really a formal way, but that's an intentional way of taking action, different action, appropriate action, whatever label you want to put on it. So what are your thoughts on that little framework of breathe, relax, adjust, speak?
I really love it. Breathing is like a universal technique used for calming. I teach different breathing techniques in my coaching program. And I really love how you were able to use like an immediate example of that. And I'm smirking because yesterday I had an absolute and complete meltdown. And hold 1 second. Sorry, motorcycle. That would have been really loud. Oh, there it goes.
No worries. It's not interfering in the show at the moment.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Yeah, so I had this assignment for this additional class that I'm taking within the program that I'm in right now. And I had, and you and I actually had a conversation about this, and I actually told you after the fact that I had just finished bawling my eyes out, because I understood all of the concepts. I understood all of the individual pieces of it. I understood the purpose of it, but I didn't understand the structure. The structure was not clear. And I was just at a point, I had reached basically my frustration tolerance with this assignment. And part of what I did though yesterday was I allowed myself to vent and melt down, like full on tears. Thank you to my husband, because my husband goes, "What's wrong? Or are you okay?" It was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. What is the point? I don't understand. like a 6-year-old with first grade homework. And then somebody that works with me, one of my partners, called, just so happened to call, and he said, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "Not good." But I was able to I did take some deep breaths, and I was able to explain to him. He said, "What's going on?" And I was able to explain to him that I was struggling, and he's going through this class with me as well. And he was like, "Okay, well, what?" He was able to kind of walk me through step by step. Okay, what are you struggling with? What part are you having difficulty with? How can I help you? Let's look at this. And so being able, though, in that safe space to vent that out instead of feeling like I needed to hold it in was also really good to manage the overwhelm. Because once I got the emotional gunk out of me, I let it come out instead of trying to hold it in, we were then able to refocus and actually solve the problem of what was going on and figure out, and then I was okay with it. So I think that both of those pieces are really important, because in the past I wouldn't allow people to support me. I wouldn't allow myself to vent. I would hold it all in. I didn't let people see me cry ever. And it really caused a lot of emotional backup, which then causes even more problems the next time, because you're more inclined to get overwhelmed when you haven't quite resolved the emotions from the last time that you were overwhelmed. So I'm curious what you think about that.
No, I like that, because when you allow those past traumas or those past situations to really get the best of you, you will be victimized twice, so to speak, because first, one, you will relive that particular situation, and then two, you will allow it to affect your current situation. And it's one of those
Right.
things that if you allow yourself to get stuck in that past, you'll be in, and I forget what you call it. Maybe you can help me out here with this loop. There's like this thought loop or
Negative
this
habit loop.
negative habit loop. That's exactly what I was looking for. So you will find yourself in this negative habit loop to where you will consistently find yourself getting overwhelmed, even at the simplest things,
Yes.
the easiest things, the things that make no sense. But guess what? You're overwhelmed by it. So
Right.
that's kind of that's my take on that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's like a soda bottle that you shake and shake and shake and shake and shake. If you don't let that pressure out,
Uh-huh.
at some point the damn thing's gonna explode and you're gonna have a real mess on your hands.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of piggybacking from our conversation last week. I'm really glad that I'm allowing myself to accept the support and
Mhm.
not still be in that mindset where I've got this, even when I really don't necessarily got this, telling people I got this because I got to be strong. I got to do things myself. I got to be independent, like all these things that I grew up with. And I'm really shifting a lot of those, really would have turned into limiting beliefs, to be honest, because having all of those beliefs has not allowed me to accept support and then grow. Like yesterday, I got to have a growing moment with my partner because he was able to support, I was able to accept support, and together we were able to problem solve. And then I got the assignment done within a really short period of time, as opposed to how many hours I had emotionally and mentally struggled with it,
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, part of it was the scenarios I was making up in my head about what happens if this isn't turned in and done properly. So that's a part
Mm-hmm.
of that was the overwhelm, was those assumptions that I was making.
Yeah. And I remember conversating with you. So we had a long conversation about that, and I remember talking with you and sharing kind of my ideas. And it comes down to certain things, like test anxiety, for example. When you have test anxiety, you don't even know what questions are going to be on the test. So it's like one of those things that you're overwhelmed before you even take the test.
Yeah.
You went to class, you studied, you have all of the material, you're ready to rock and roll. But yet it's one of those things that, oh my goodness, I hate taking tests. So when it comes to homework, it's one of those things as well too. I'm a huge procrastinator, but well, I'm not really. I am. So I'm a procrastinator. I'll go ahead and commit to that. So I am a procrastinator when it comes to doing homework, but it's also one of these things that I'm like a super geek too. So it's like I don't really care what it is. I'm going to knock it out. I'm going to get my A. It doesn't really, because I'm like I'm like a 3.8 GPA super nerd when it comes to school. And you can give me any topic, I'll talk about it, I'll write about it, I'll do a homework assignment about it, but I'll scuba dove into it and knock it out. It's one of those things. But man, I can truly relate when you have those things that you really don't want to do, but you have to do them. It can overwhelm you because you're stuck between this thing of like you have to do this, but you don't want to do that. But do I really need to do that, or should I do that, or must I do? It's one of those things to where you get stuck in this negative loop, like you mentioned earlier, of like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do it, have to do it, must do it, should do it. Do I really need to do it? You start questioning those things, and that gets overwhelming because you're deep in your thoughts.
Yeah, I was full out ready, like not really ready, but like in my mind, in my temper tantrum, just ready to. I'm like, what? I was swearing F words, and I said to my husband, he's kind of like, he's looking at me, and he knew I wasn't like swearing at him, obviously. But it was like, I don't understand what the effing point of any of this is, because if I don't get this part of the homework assignment done, then I'm going to fail the whole thing, because incomplete is the same as not turning any of it in the way that, because it's called elite. Like the group is an elite group. Like they expect a lot out of you. And I committed to this for myself and for my team. And I'm like, so here's me completely freaking out, and at the same time wanting to throw the towel in on everything, because the whole assignment, there was multiple pieces of it, and not every single, about 3/4 of the pieces of it, I had been having some struggle. And you and I had a few different great conversations about the different parts that I was struggling with. And so I was just finally getting to this point where I had reached my like frustration tolerance for the day, because it was like I still don't have this done, and I still don't have this done. So why am I even stressing about this? And I slammed the door, and I went outside, and I took a walk, and it was like I just needed to get out. Like I said, clear all that gunk out of there about how I was feeling. But this was one of those instances where I don't have to do it. Like I signed up for the program, but I committed to the program, which means I committed to doing whatever it is they told me that I need to do within the program. And so, like I said, I wasn't really planning to quit, but I was definitely feeling very temper tantrumish yesterday.
You were frustrated, and I remember the conversation because here's the thing: it ultimately got to a point to where you believed in what it was that you brought to the table. You knocked it out. You got it done, as Miss Kever always says. Ta-da! You know, it's one of those things. You got it done, and now that it's over, you can move on to the next thing. And sometimes people get overwhelmed with even the smallest of things, like we said before, where it's a whole lot easier to say to done than it is to do, because when you have things to do, and don't get me wrong, I have things to do, but I choose what I do every single day. And when I take that intentional action on what it is that I do, you know, that's a different thing than being told to do something. I'd rather take intentional action on things that I know that I want to do versus, you know, having to do something. And believe me when I tell you that I've been in many situations where I have to do something. I don't want to do this. You know, like, for example, you know, many years ago, this was like 27 years ago, I was in Panama. It was when I was in the military. I was in Panama, and I got told to go paint a bathroom out in the field. So it's these military latrines that are out in the field. They're these big brick buildings that basically when you walk into them, there's no walls, there's no nothing. You walk in, there's these open stools, and basically you're taking a dump right next to the next person, talking, hey, how you doing? Taking a dump, huh? You know, it's one of those things that it stinks really bad. It's super hot. You're sitting next to like your buddy kind of a thing. And it's one of those things that we got tasked to go out and paint these things. So here we are. I'm like, man, I don't want to go paint these things. I was already defeated before I even got started. Yeah. It was like I already had this defeatist mentality because like, man, why do I have to go do this? I get stuck with all of the details, you know, the crap details, so to speak. And I said something else, but, you know, I get stuck with all the crap details, pun intended, on this one. And it was one of those things to where I didn't want to do this thing. So we get out there, me and this one other guy, we had our vehicle, we had our cans of paint, and we're out here it is 90 degrees in South America. We're painting these things. It stinks like crap and pee and all kinds of other things. And we're painting this bad boy. Anyway, about midway through, it starts raining. And it just starts raining super hard. So we jump in the vehicle, we stop what we're doing, and we're looking at this building. And the next thing you know, what we see paint just dripping down this building. I'm like, oh my God, do you see that, dude? Yeah, the paint's like dripping down the building. And I'm sitting here like, it shouldn't be doing that, right? You know, kind of a thing. And so we're looking at each other, looking at this paint that we just spent like most of the day painting this big building, right? And the paint's dripping down the side of this building. Needless to say, I'm sitting here starting to get more and more overwhelmed by the moment. Like, I don't want to repaint this thing. I looked at him, I was like, I don't want to repaint that. Do you want to repaint that? I'm not repainting that. You repaint that? I'm not repainting that. You know, so we're sitting here looking at each other, not really arguing with each other, but we're not committing to repainting this thing as we're watching this paint fall down this brick building bathroom out in the field in Panama. Long story short, we did not repaint that building. But we did, once it kind of cleared up and we looked in the back of the vehicle and we looked at the paint and we realized that it was the wrong paint. It was water soluble paint, which meant that once it rained, it was going to come off anyway. So I'm sitting here like, you know, and you hear me talk about the right resources, you know, the 5 rights, right place, right time, right resources being one of those things. We had the wrong resource. We had the wrong paint. So needless to say, we were both overwhelmed at all of the time we had lost, the work we had put in, the rain, the smell, the whole thing of doing something that we didn't want to do to begin with. And I'm sitting here, how are we going to take this back to our boss and say, hey, boss, you know, we went out there, it rained, the paint, it melted, you know, like butter. And so driving back on our way, trying to come up with every excuse under the sun that was acceptable on why we're not going to repaint this building. But anyway, we got back and we told the story of it was the wrong paint. We didn't get the paint; somebody gave it to us. So we were given all this stuff. Got told to go do this, go make it happen. And so it wasn't our fault. We didn't get in trouble. It was one of those things. And we didn't even get retasked to go back out there and go do it. So somebody else had to go back out there and go do that. But anyway, that was one of those things to where it was kind of an overwhelming situation. It was just an example. I could probably tell you probably a million more other examples, but I thought that I would do like a funny one kind of a thing. And that was kind of an example of being overwhelmed to do something that you did not want to do, got told to do it. It sucked. It didn't work out. And here we are.
Yeah, I've definitely been in some different situations. That really were kind of reminded me of the Karate Kid there for a minute. And I was like thinking about, sounded like the building started to paint itself with the rain there. But
paint on, paint off, paint on, paint off, kind of a thing.
Basically. Yeah, I something I use quite frequently, and this is where I had to really work hard yesterday to reshift myself. Again, like I said, I signed up for this. I volunteered. I committed to do this and to follow through. And it's really, I've been working really hard. It's shifting my mindset from I have to do this to I get to do this. And that was the last, between talking to you and talking to my other partner, that was the last like piece of the puzzle for me. It was like, no, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. I get to be a part of this group. I get to show what I'm made of. I get to prove that I belong here. I get like, and it was, I'm not going to lie, it was a struggle at first, but I had to like keep coming up with reasons that I got to do this particular thing. And I also went back to the part where it says somewhere in the program something about doing your best. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there and do the best job that I can. And the same thing I told you, I was like, I'm just going to follow step by step what she told us to do. And I'm going to put it on a piece of paper because I can't figure out the structure. All the information is there. And I turned everything in today. And so it is what it is. I did the best that I could with that. And I had to be okay with that. And part of this too is me, being an over, what do you call that? A recovering perfectionist, because that in and of itself will put you in a state of overwhelm, just believing that you've got to have everything done right, perfectly, all the time, never making any mistakes, never letting anybody see you're human. Like there's a whole lot that I could talk on and on and on about that, obviously, but that was something else. It's like, this is a lesson in, forgiveness. It's a lesson in perspective. It's a lesson in not being a perfectionist, like doing my best, but not being a perfectionist. And so, yeah, there was really a lot yesterday that I realized I still have work to do. And the whole point of this thing is to challenge us. That's literally the whole point. I'm like, well, it's doing its job, so I'm getting my money's worth. Definitely.
I love it. So just want to take a quick pause here. So in the chat, I did put the link to join the StreamYard here. So if you do want to join the show, if you want to kind of chime in on the discussion, you're more than welcome to go ahead and click on that link that's in the chat here and join the show. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on what you do to stop from being overwhelmed. And I know that we have a couple of people kind of running errands, doing different things. And I just want to send a shout out once again. Thank you very much for listening. I know Zan is out and about running some errands and everything. So we just want to say thank you very much for listening. But if you do want to join in, chime in the show, share your thoughts, ideas, ask a question. We did share the link right there. And it would mean a lot to us if you hopped on in to join the show. So anyway, when it comes back to being overwhelmed, it's one of those things that can really take a toll on you, especially when you catastrophize things. So I think catastrophizing is a huge word because you tend to blow things out of proportion before you really understand. So you start making all of these excuses and reasons on why you can't do something, how you can't do something. You're not good enough. You don't have all the resources. You don't have the right team. You don't have this. You don't have that. You start catastrophizing the situation before you even get there. And then when you get there, it's really not that bad. You really discover, like, man, this is really not bad. I love this. I enjoy doing this. And, don't get me wrong, there's certain degrees and certain elements of things that do kind of suck a little bit. But what are your thoughts on catastrophizing?
It's so funny you're bringing this up because that's exactly, I think, what set me up the last 2 weeks to end up getting getting overwhelmed. Was as soon as we got our assignment. So we had class today. It's every 2 weeks. So 2 Fridays ago, listening to the assignments, and I'm like, there's multiple parts, like pieces to the homework. And I'm like, okay, got this. Got this. Holy F. I'm like, how am I going to do that? That was literally the thought in my head, was like, there's no way. And so, right, like you said, right off the bat, I'm going, and I wasn't making up a million, maybe I was in the back of my mind somewhere, but it was more like very, very conscious. Like, I have zero idea how I'm going to make this happen. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of reasons, but they were almost like reasons outside of my scope of capability. Like, there were things like I'm still at a stage where I depend on other people in this process to be able to make the final product happen. And so it definitely, for me, was stopping myself before I even got started. And that kind of just kept manifesting off and on for like 2 weeks. And so it was really interesting. I like, literally, as this is happening, is what you just said. Today we got our assignment, and I have to do double of that one thing that we were told to do 2 weeks ago. And I was like, all right, because I was like, as much as I tortured myself through the process itself wasn't actually that bad. And I was like, okay, so I need to do that and that again, but twice. All right, let's get started like now. And so, but you're right. Like, I'm kind of looking forward to the challenge this time, as before I was like, not. So it just shows how that, how we do grow through those things if we allow ourselves to, that pressure and whatnot causes us
and they make you stronger too. So once you go through those things, I always tell everybody, I was like, it doesn't matter really what you're going through, you're growing through, and more importantly, you're showing through, because when you're faced with overwhelm, you're faced with struggle, you're faced with hardship, you're faced with adversity, your true colors will show through. Trust me when I tell you that, because if you want to see exactly what somebody is really like, put them in a situation to where they have to react, not act, react. And there's a difference between acting and reacting. And when you put somebody in a situation to where they react, they're going to show you their true self. And it's one of those things that you will really understand somebody from a whole different level and a different perspective when those buttons get pushed. You really will.
Yeah, I've actually experienced some of that in the past few weeks. Making phone calls to people. My team is making phone calls to some of the people that I know, and I actually told one of my other partners, another female partner, just a few days ago. I was like, block that woman. I was like, I can't believe she's treating you like somebody I know. I can't believe she's talking to you like that. Say no, thank you, and just block her and be done. I was like, I don't need someone with that level of negative. And it wasn't just like, she's like, this woman wasn't having a temper tantrum. Like, she was berating and just being straight out nasty. I was like, I'm going to block her in my phone too. Like, I don't want to have this person in my life. And it wasn't even really a situation of pressure. It was just something that this woman, like you said, she didn't like, and she super reacted to something that was pretty benign.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks for showing me your true colors.
I got you. I see you. Yeah. All right. So I see Zan has joined us in the background here. We have him backstage, and he is out and about grocery shopping. But I do want to bring Zan on very quickly, unless he starts waving his hands at the camera saying, no, don't bring me up. But I just wanted to let Zan know we are live and I'm about to bring him up on stage here. So welcome to the show, Zan the Man. What is your question? What is your comments?
Oh, hello, guys. How are you? Let me see if I can go over here in the corner. Hello. Great answers, guys, by the way. Great answers. One of the techniques I use in regards to avoiding overwhelm is I just follow my schedule. I hold on one second. I follow my schedule. I have I have block times. So I only put so much in my block time so that I won't be overwhelmed. And I can stay structured, I can stay organized. That has worked perfect for me. And it's what I recommend to my clients also. But again, block time is block time. That means I'm not trying to multitask and do other things. That time is blocked for specific activities and tasks. And that's just the way it is.
I love it. It's like what David Meltzer talks about. Be a student of your calendar.
Yeah. My schedule is everything, man. I run my entire life by my schedule. Yeah. I mean, but when it's block time, it's block time. And I take that very serious.
I love it. Zan, thank you very much for sharing. Yeah. Thank you for joining the show, man. I know you got some tasks to do, but I just want to say thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I want to come in and say hi to you guys. You're two of my favorite people, man. I love what you guys are doing over there on Unbreakable Stories. You guys are the best.
Man,
all right, guys. Thank you for having me in. Okay.
All right, take care.
I have a funny story to tell about block time.
Yeah.
Because that's something I do, and I've actually created 2 different Calendly schedules now where if somebody wants to schedule time with me to do like an interview or a collab, I send them one schedule and my other stuff, appointments goes on this other schedule. And my husband he overheard me talking about that yesterday. He was like, do I need to schedule some collab time in too? So anyways, I thought I'd throw it in there. I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, are you serious right now? But I have definitely been extra active lately. I don't use the word busy anymore, but like active, productive, getting things done and very, very, very focused on what it is I'm trying to accomplish. And so I haven't been hanging out downstairs, kind of like how you have your space now that I have an office. I'm not sitting on the couch holding my ears trying to get work done. And so I said, I need to schedule some time. And it's like, yeah, I'll send you my Calendly link. There you go.
I love that. I actually love that. And and I'm finding myself saying the same thing. So I laugh. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because that struggle is real. It's one of those things to where, we're all working on different things. So it's like, I have to send my kids my Calendly link. Now I don't send my kids my Calendly link, but it's one of those things that, I let everybody know that, hey, I got things going on. Like right now, before I come down here, before we went live, I had to make an announcement in my house. Excuse me, house, attention, please. I'm about to go. No, just nothing like that. But it sounded good though. But I did. I had to let everybody know, hey, I'm about ready to go live. So that way and not that anybody's going to bother me because, everybody's deeply involved in the things that they're doing here in the house. Wife's doing homework, kids are upstairs playing games, daughters, she's chatting with one of her friends on iPad, this, that, and the other. So it's kind of one of those things that, sometimes you have to make those announcements. You have to let people know. You have to set those left and right limits. Otherwise, people will take advantage of your time, your peace, your sanity, for just unseemingly benign things. It's one of those things to where if you don't set those left and right limits, other people will overwhelm you.
Yeah, I getting into that, like this has been a somewhat of a gradual process. It's happened more quickly than I expected it to, going from 24/7 mom trying to do business in between to 24/7 almost feels like business to doing other things in between. But I also know that this is temporary. The level at what I'm doing right now is temporary because there's and the learning curve process where not only am I doing the business stuff, I'm still learning and training and classes and this and that. And so, but I do the same thing now. It's like I right before I came up here, my kids are watching a movie, eating some popcorn. I gave them both a kiss. I said, maybe asleep before I'm done. But I'm going live. Like, so that means can't be running up and down the steps. Can't like be thoughtful about what it is you're doing and the noise that you're making. Really is what I'm trying to teach them. But they're still little. Like my youngest is 5, so they're still. He came in here. That's why one of the times I muted myself, and I was like, "Is this important?" Well, for a 5-year-old, yes, asking mom if she can play Minecraft when she's done is important.
That's
he's
important.
Trying
Mom.
to plan ahead. Like, I want to know if you can do this with me later. So it does show that he's understanding that he respects that I'm doing something now and knows that I can't do the thing now. So we're like making progress towards, having those boundaries. And when I asked him to leave and not come back in here to ask me about Minecraft again, he closed the door and he went downstairs. So definitely call that progress. And yeah, well, you back in the summer and throughout the fall, this was definitely not the case.
Yeah, no, I've noticed a tremendous level of progress, and I definitely appreciate it for one. But I also want to say congratulations at the opposite end of that as well too, because it's one of those things to where when you do set those clearly defined, not necessarily limitations, but boundaries or rules or whatever label you want to put on it that fits the situation, and every situation is different. It really is. But it's one of those things that, like Mary says, and I really want to highlight this because I think what we're talking about ties exactly into what Mary is saying right there. If you don't make use of your no, your yes has no value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is a fantastic point. I just want to say, Mary, thank you very much. And she's always filled with wisdom. I know she's in listen mode only tonight. She normally joins the show, but I just want to send, a very good shout out to Miss Mary there because she always provides amazing value. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. All right, so we have another friend in backstage here. Miss Janine just joined up the show, so I'm giving her a second to get her camera adjusted because I see her adjusting her camera.
I want to say thank you for that, for the acknowledgement before we shift again, because it means a lot to me. Yeah. Because that was something that really made me nervous because it went from spending like all of my time to now I'm spending more quality time. So although I'm spending less time with them individually, when we do, it's very intentional and we're doing things where my phone is put down. Undivided attention on what they want to do. I play these ridiculous games on Xbox if that's what they want to do. Sometimes Sebastian just wants to sit and snuggle in my lap. And I not that I didn't enjoy those moments before, but I'm literally like breathing them in at this point. Like I'm really, really soaking these the time that I'm spending with them in. And it feels like it means more now.
I can relate to that. And it's those moments of growth that mean something different as you experience them. And it's not, it's not a matter of putting limitations or rules or whatever. It comes down to expectations, I believe, too. And once you do expectation management, then people know what to expect. Otherwise, even children, because you have to teach them, you have to show them what right looks like. Otherwise, kids are just going to do what comes natural to them. And what comes natural to a kid might not necessarily be natural to us. And then you start, is that my kid? Yes, that's your kid. And then you find yourself in that situation to where it's like, no, that's your kid. No, that is your kid. I'm telling you that right there. That is definitely your kid. So it's kind of one of those things. So when you get kind of caught in the middle of that moment. And I just wanted to say congratulations because I remember 6 months ago and to see the progress that's been made along the way. I'm proud of everybody. I truly am.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. It's been, again, it goes back to support. My husband has been doing so much more lately, and they still come in. But again, it's not. Whereas before, it was like they weren't listening to me saying no. Like it was like well, you've experienced that. But now it's very much we're leveling up, and it makes me so much more, how do I say this? I now allow myself to feel much more relaxed when I come into these things, knowing that I'm not going to be interrupted 57 times. It may be once or twice. I have a mute button, you know, but it's not just a constant thing where I'm not able to do the thing and keep the commitments that I'm making to other people that aren't inside my house.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I love that. I truly do. And I know we have Miss Jeannie in the background. She turned her camera off, so I back chatted her here. When she's ready, she can turn her camera on, and I'll bring her into the conversation here. Just waiting on her to turn her camera back on. But man, you know, I remember, you know, I remember years ago trying to set certain boundaries and certain limitations. It's not a matter of just, you know, being like a rough parent or a hard parent, because I know for myself I had some boundaries set on me that I just didn't understand, and they were overwhelming to the point because I didn't understand them. I didn't want to like deal with that. I didn't, you know, like, why can't I do that? You know, it's one of those things. And that, to, you know, to a small mind, to a mind that doesn't understand or know the difference, that can be a little overwhelming. That can be one of those things of like, why can't I do that? You know, and from a child perspective, it's a matter of, well, I don't know the difference or know any better, because they're going to do what they do until they know differently. And that's where parents come in and be like, look, I know this is tough. This is the lesson learned that I'm going to share with you. Take this action. Remember, I love you and I'm looking out for your best interest, kind of a thing. And so I'm going to bring Janine up here, but I want to get your thoughts on that right there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So I've had the advantage, the opportunity, whatever you call it, to almost have a do-over, just because my older two kids one just turned 22, one is 19. And then my younger two kids are 8 and 5. So there's 11 years between my daughter and my oldest younger son, if that makes any sense. And so I got to really, one, grow two to adults, you know, raise two to adults, and see that they're fairly well adjusted and they're good kids. But I also was able to recognize what it was that I did not want to do with my younger two that I did with my older two. And I mean, not that anything was necessarily bad or wrong. It was just not the way I would prefer to do it. And I recognized that I did a lot of things with my older kids because I was afraid of judgment versus purely because I thought it was the right thing to do. And so I really have been working very hard over the past several years to just, like, these are my kids, they're not your kids. And as long as I'm doing what I think is best, what I do is none of your business. So, you know, as long as I'm not causing any kind of harm. So yeah, right. That's really, I'm very grateful. And, you know, it's interesting to be able to raise basically two sets of kids in two different dynamics almost.
I love it. So we have Janine up here on stage. I just want to send a shout out to her, you know, very quickly, and give her an opportunity to kind of weigh in on the conversation. Janine, over to you. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm just stopping by for a moment. I was so excited when Bonnie was going in. Hi, Bonnie, about just in general, like I remember our conversations about how you wanted a better relationship with your kids and you wanted more in business. And like both of us, it's just so funny to see like how both of us kind of stay at the same like frequency or whatever you want to call it. Because we've both just kind of like moved along, and I'm just really proud of you and like really excited for both of us because you're like doing it now. And the thing is too, like the example to the kids, you know, is what Zan was talking about. They're going to see you using time efficiently and like eventually significantly making money and improving your situation and like having a really big community of people who love you. Like they're going to actually see you do that. And there's going to be something more worthwhile to that. I mean, video games are fine. Like it's fine to have that as a hobby, but they'll see all the opportunities because you're doing it. And you're still like, when you're with them, you're like not resentful. You're just like really blessed. And like, that's the best way. I mean, I do think that time is like relative. I mean, if you don't use it well, then it doesn't matter if you have more time, quote unquote.
I really love that. And thank you so much. I appreciate you for saying so and being here along on this journey.
Do what? Go ahead.
I said just being here with me, like the conversations that we've had over the past, again, 6 months. Janine and I started talking about the same time you and I met, Terry.
Yeah.
And,
When we talked for like 7 hours.
the first
That was
time we
so-
talked, it was
I'll
like a
always
7-hour
remember that.
conversation.
What?
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time we talked, it was like a 7-hour conversation. It was insane.
I haven't had a 7-hour power talk with Bonnie, but we've had our 4 hours of power before. But I can only imagine.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off, but I'm gonna keep watching. We'll talk soon, but I'm
Awesome.
still gonna watch on here. I'm just gonna leave the thing.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us, Janine.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so that was Janine, that absolutely amazing person. So her and Bonnie recently worked on a project that was truly phenomenal, and I had the opportunity of watching that event right there. And you really never know what's going on behind the scenes until you're like behind the scenes. And it's one of those things to where I remember talking with Bonnie, and I remember as they were getting ready and preparing for that show and this, that, and the other, and leading up to like the moment of impact, so to speak, it can truly be overwhelming. It's like, are we ready? Are you ready? Ready? You know, kind of a thing. And it's like, I don't know. Are we ready? Let's go. Let's make this thing happen. Let's rock. And then there it is. You know, and it's kind of one of those things that you really don't know what you don't know until you kind of goes hand in hand with what we talk about a lot of times on Clubhouse in the Unbreakable Stories Club, where, you know, a lot of times people get so bent out of shape over the result instead of the action that you can take. And that gets overwhelming. It's like, man, you know, I got this bad result. I got this negative thing that's happening, and that's overwhelming. That's eating at me. That's tearing at me. I'm like, look, here's the thing. Don't get tied into the results, because especially if results haven't happened yet, that's where that catastrophizing comes into play. When you start catastrophizing, oh man, what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, gosh, you know what? If that does happen, you don't know until you know. So it's one of those things that you have to take an action, get a result, whether those results are big, small, positive, or negative. The idea is just to figure out what went right, what needs improvement, modify, tweak, or change, continue taking action, get a result, and you repeat the process until you achieve the desired results. Here's the thing. When you're learning something, when you're trying something out for the first time, you're going to make mistakes, and that's a good thing. Because if you try to achieve perfection in everything, you will achieve it in nothing. And when you start diving deep into all of the things that could go wrong, guess what's going to happen? You're going to put your mindset at that negative frequency and that negative mindset of like, oh my goodness, here's all the things that can go wrong. Well, those things are going to go wrong because you're thinking about it. And it, you know, it's like, don't step on the crack. Don't step on the crack. I'm not going to, oh crap, I just stepped on the crack. You know, kind of a thing. So it comes down to one of those things that sometimes you just have to let it go. Let it flow. And wherever the dice may roll, there it goes. There it is. And sometimes that's the best option to choose. Now, if you've done all of your homework, you've done your mitigation, the risk mitigation, you've put all these things into play, you've done all these different things, you're going to minimize the impact, the negative impact of the things that could go wrong. The things that are overwhelming you, the things that could overwhelm you if and when they do go wrong. Because here's the thing, things do go wrong. They will go wrong. The idea is for you to not quit, not give up. The idea is to embrace the idea that something did go wrong, clearly identify it, go through that little process of modifying, tweaking, and changing, and figuring out what went right, what needs improvement, and then repeat that process. Once you start putting those systems into play, and you have that risk mitigation in play, and you've brainstormed things and you've worked your way through it, trust the process, trust yourself, trust the actions that you've prepared for, and take action. What are your thoughts on all that? That was a lot to unpack, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a lot. But it was good, and I was trying to take mental notes of what to say along the way. I'm gonna start bringing a notebook with me. But honestly, but you're right. Like, so that was a big part, and I've told this story before. So I was on David Meltzer's 2-Minute Drill last January 2021, and I really feel like that was one of the biggest things that allowed me to win my episode. Was I wasn't attached to the outcome, in that, like, I wasn't worried about winning. All I was worried about was going in there and doing my absolute best, which means I studied, I scripted, I rewrote 17 different versions of my pitch, I recorded, I think, like 400 recordings of me practicing my pitch to get the timing down, changing syllables. Like, it was insane. Literally walking up and down my sidewalk every single day, multiple times a day, either rehearsing my pitch or saying my affirmations. And so I was so focused on just doing my best, because I had to be honest, in my mind, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to win against these people that I'm going to be going up against. So my only objective at that point was to not embarrass myself or David, and to do my best. And because of that, I really feel like that was a huge part of why I did get a much better outcome than I ever expected, because I wasn't tied to the results per se. I was tied to my actions and what I was able to control in that situation. Another funny story, though, that you just made me think of, literally just happened a few hours ago. My husband took my son. They stopped at McDonald's to get some, nuggets and fries for the boys. And every single time my husband gets fast food, they mess up his order. And I'm like, you realize that it's because every time you go to get fast food, you expect them to mess up your order. And he was like, no, there was this one time where I went in all positive and I thought they were going to get it right. I'm like, yeah, but you've got like years and years and years of like pent up negativity them messing up. And just a case in point of what you were talking about is, like, even though he's not necessarily in control of what these other people are doing, it's almost like you kind of like foster and attract that energy. And almost no fail, every single time he goes to fast food place, they screw up his sandwich in one way, shape, or form, or the other.
I don't like the way you put that ketchup on there. It's out of order.
Well, no, it's more like they're putting stuff on there that he doesn't like at all, and
Really?
or giving him the completely like wrong sandwich, like really wiped out stuff. And it sucks. I'm like, you want mine? It's plain.
I want a sandwich with vegan air attached to it. But then again, I mean, I can relate to that because here I've never worked in fast food. It's one of those things that I'm not entirely too sure if I could go with the flexibility of the creative orders that do tend to happen, because especially like coffee shops, like you go to Starbucks and it's like you can't just go in and order a coffee flavored coffee no more. It has to be like this long drawn romantic story that that is tied to like fantasy and and mythical characters and this that, and the other, and then that ends up being your coffee. It's kind of one of those things that like whatever happened to just coffee flavored coffee. So I can relate to that. It's like whatever happened to cereal flavored cereal. You go into the store and it's like you're overwhelmed with all these different things that back in the day it was just one of those things that you walk into like the store aisle, you knew you were going to get cornflakes. It was just kind of one of those things. Like there was no
in the white box with black writing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly. So you go to a coffee shop, you're going to get coffee, and then over on the side there's the cream and the sugar. That was it. Like there's your choice. So I think that we've gotten into an economy to where there's so many choices, and people wanted these choices. And now we're in choice overwhelm. So it's one of those things that I think that we've created exactly what everybody wanted, but now we've created a situation to where we have what I like to call choice overwhelm. What are your thoughts about choice overwhelm?
So first of all, they have yet to put my Starbucks order on the menu, and I think they're crazy for not doing it because it tastes like a chocolate-covered strawberry, and I've been ordering for 15 years, so I'm actually shocked it's not on the menu. I actually haven't had Starbucks in probably almost 2 years now, just because of the when I found out the amount of sugar that was in this coffee that I was drinking, I was like, no wonder I wake up and I can't move for 2 days straight afterwards. So besides that, I agree. I think sometimes in our effort to please everyone, we end up, I'm not going to say pleasing no one in the case of Starbucks, but it definitely, if you're not accustomed or don't know what it is that you like, walking in there and trying to order coffee, that's like not the place to, unless you want black coffee, that's not the place to go in there and order plain coffee, because it will drive you nuts trying to figure out. I still use the word like large. Like I want the biggest one you have. Like I don't know what the fancy word for that is.
Biggins. Well, I'm from the South.
What's the largest cup you can put that in?
I want one of the big boys. Give me a trough of coffee.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Just
yes.
give me
yes,
an
right.
IV, dude.
This pound of sugar that comes with that. Once I found out, I was like, oh God. But yeah, I
I
feel
want a
like
coffee. Hold the coffee, but add extra coffee to it.
there's you've said this quite a few times, like a confused mind always says no, and I do really feel like there's a lot of situations where people want options, but there's really a limit to how many of those options your brain can process at one time. And sorry, I read Mary's comment, totally lost my train of thought.
Don't do it.
Just being honest. Just being honest. I totally. Oh, okay. So you're a confused mind always says no.
A confused
If
mind
you
always says
hand,
no.
yeah, if you show somebody too many choices and then they're trying to make, educated decision about something, especially in the case of products that's going to, affect either a large portion of their money or a large part of their time. It's almost counterproductive to show them too many options. It's almost like give them 2 or 3 and say, okay, which is your preferred of these 3? Okay, well, because you chose this one, I have 2 more that are similar like that, similar to that with these other options, and then narrow it down that way. Because if you throw 6 or 12 or 15 in front of somebody, it's just going to be like, I don't know. I don't want to do this anymore. But I thank you, Mary, for your comment. I actually got like a comfy chair today delivered, and it literally made a world of difference in my focus and productivity, because I'm not hurting and I can move around. Like, you notice I'm like, I can rock in it and like put my legs up or put my legs down, and I'm actually at the right height for my desk, where before I was kind of like like 6 cushions on this rocking chair, and it's got lumbar support too, like built in. And I'm just like,
you should get a standing desk like I have.
Yeah, eventually, but because my husband so graciously gave me this beautiful glass desk, I was like, I'm going to work with this, and I do actually enjoy sitting for part of the day now because it doesn't hurt me. I still have to take my breaks, but
I do that too. So over in the other room, I have my bean bag, my bouncy ball thing. So I'll find myself sitting on the bouncy ball, just kind of spinning around and kind of get my back pop my neck, stretch my arms out. So I'm rolling all over this ball in different directions and this, that, and the other, trying to kind of stretch and get flexibility so that, because I stand all day long. And here underneath my feet, I have one of those, I don't know, like a comfort mat. So it's
the
like
anti-fatigue mat.
The anti-fatigue mat. So I have one of those right here. And so I'm in my socks. And so I can sit here and twist back and forth if I wanted to. And I got my socks on. So it's comfortable. So I don't mind being on this thing all day long because it is comfortable. And when I need to take a break, I have my bean bag. I've got my little egg chair over here. So I got like this little half moon egg, I don't know, looking thing. And so I'll sit in there and then I'll sit on my ball. And so I have those things. And it's one of those things that I'm constantly swapping back and forth because standing all day does get a bit overwhelming on my knees, my feet, my back, my hips, oh my goodness. So having those things in place and having those, it's essential. And so here's another thing that I do. So like right next to my desk, I don't have it now, but I did have it here, is a set of weights and a set of like little twisty push-up things. And I would lift weights and do push-ups and sit-ups and jump up. I got a trampoline over here. I'll jump up and down. So that I don't get overwhelmed mentally, I take that physical break, get a workout in. So every hour on the hour, I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll get on my ball, do some sit-ups on the ball, jump up and down, lift some weights, do some sit-ups, do some, whatever. And taking that little physical break allows me to take that mental break so that I'm not so overwhelmed. Because here's the thing. When you work out, you get your body going, you get that momentum going, and then that gives you that motivation to continue going, to make things happen. So what are your thoughts on taking like mental breaks whenever you do feel overwhelmed and to get back after it again?
I actually do plan breaks as well. Every single hour at 10 till I get up and I walk. I go outside and I walk.
Mhm.
At the very least, I'm walking, downstairs and around the house. And the fact that I schedule my meetings specifically so that, like right now, my legs are starting to ache because I've been sitting here for over an hour. But
Mhm.
that is part of the overwhelm that I was trying to resolve is pain, because when you're not feeling well physically, be it sickness or pain, which is something you and I are very familiar with,
Mhm.
I can't focus when I can't get comfortable. It's very difficult if my back's hurting, my legs are hurting, my knee, like whatever. And so for me, being able to get a new chair was an investment in myself and my physical health, my mental health, my productivity, everything. Because when I'm uncomfortable for 8 hours a day and then sleep like crap and then get up and do it all over, like it really does start to take a toll on your physical well-being and your mental well-being. So um, that that's just another part. And when you feel like that too, it's so easy to get overwhelmed mentally
Mhm.
because of that tolerance that we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream. That once I used to explain it to people like this. So say you have like a 100 units of tolerance for the day. Well, when you've got like a chronic pain or chronic illness or whatever, most of the time, especially in the really rough stages, you're waking up where 50 of them are already gone.
Mhm.
Like, so you're starting way down here, and just getting, for me, especially in the beginning, just getting out of bed, getting dressed, getting a shower took another half of that.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to do the same things that other people are doing with like 25 tolerance points left, where they're still at like 98, 99. And being able to explain that to people that in that way kind of made some more sense to them. Um, like I don't know a whole lot of people that get the flu and feel like they can't get out of bed and
Mhm.
are jumping up and down to go to work, you know. And so when you're waking up almost every day feeling like that, it definitely takes a toll and lowers your ability to deal with overwhelm. Like
Mhm.
you have less resources to deal with those things. And so I
I
just,
I love it. I love it. So we have a special guest backstage here that's about ready to come on here, and Miss Bonnie created an absolutely custom-made, stunning, unbreakable T-shirt for Miss Lady Lexi here. So we're going to bring Lexi into the show here to share her thoughts and to show off her new shirt that she just got. So welcome to the show, Lady Lexi. You're on mute, I think. Uh-oh. Oh, look at that shirt.
Unbreakable.
I love it.
Not sure
I
if
love
you
it.
saw it. But
is it comfy?
yeah, it's a nice fabric.
Good. I love that material. Those were one of
Yeah,
my favorite shirts. I was so upset when I
were so right. You were so right about it. This is a really lovely material. And
It
I love
is.
the back of the shirt too.
Good. I'm glad.
So you did good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I love it. The shirt looks good on you, by the way.
Yeah, the color really does look good on you.
Yeah, well, I love the blue. So yeah.
Awesome. So you've been listening a little bit to the conversation here. What are your thoughts about how to stop being overwhelmed? So as a coach, whenever you're talking to someone, as you're training someone, as you're providing support, what is your best advice for how to stop being overwhelmed?
Take breaks.
Mm.
Take breaks and listen to your rhythm. So, like Bonnie said, I know what she means when she says it's about are you capable of getting up and how much effort does it take? Getting just being able to get out there, get up, and feel energized enough. And I guess that's so important that you are aware of what makes you get up, get going,
Mm-hmm.
and also going on. So if that means that you have to take a break, then you need to take a break. And
Mm-hmm.
means that you have a certain pattern in getting up, then that's what you need to do. But you can't just go on and just think, okay, and that's it. It's so important that you listen to your body and listen to what it says, what it's telling you, what it feels like. And if you can actually work with it, and also when it comes to mentally, taking a break. I was just talking to someone, and we were actually talking about the end of the day and letting go at the end of the day. And for some, it's watching TV. For other people, it's playing games. For others, it's meditation. Whatever it is, it's also about unwinding. And sometimes you need to do it during the day. Sometimes you need to do it only at the end of the day. It just depends on who you are. And take more breaks usually. I suppose you do too, Bonnie, if it's allowed.
Yeah, well, yeah, for me, it's not even about being allowed. I went into this very open about nothing I'm doing with this. Am I now? Besides my temper tantrum and mental breakdown yesterday, but in general, like, I'm not sacrificing. I've worked too hard to get my mental health and my physical health to where it is now, the progress that I've made. And yes, I do, to answer your question, yes, I do take breaks, and I do schedule them in my calendar. Like, when I schedule appointments, I have those breaks built in so that I'm not sitting, like, you'll see, when we do these and we get off for the after party, the first thing I do is set my headphones on and I leave and I go walk and stretch my legs and go do what I need to do. Because otherwise I'm in pain. And when I'm in pain, I sleep horribly. And then that how that perpetuates that cycle. All of us know what that's like. And so one of the things I do, besides the breaks, and I was just thinking as Lady Lexi was speaking, the best way to really to get out of or reduce overwhelm is to prevent it in the first place. And that's by building in routines, these stretching breaks, these exercise things that Terry's talking about, the tips that you were talking about, Lady Lexi, and a lot of the other stuff I built in stretching, meditation, my EFT tapping, all of these things. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like this flood. All of these things I do to prevent, because I'm working on my mental and my physical health, it helps me to prevent overwhelm from happening in the first place, because it's much better / simpler. I'm not going to necessarily say easier to stop overwhelm, to prevent overwhelm before you get yourself in a full blown, i.e. my example from yesterday and my temper tantrum.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's the not so normal things. Like today, I was driving to the airport in Rotterdam, and I felt like I was nervous. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put on the music in the car. And I was like, no, that's not going to help. So I put my phone on there, and I recorded, and I started recording, and I started talking to the camera. And by just talking to the camera, I got to relax again, because that's normal for me nowadays. And when I was on the flight, I noticed that my heart rate was increasing, as if I was working out. I was like, okay, not sure why. So at some point I was like, okay, I'm just going into a meditational state, and that's what I get. And that worked. So I still could hear what the others were saying, but I was like, okay, I'm just going to zone out and let everybody be. And when I arrived here, my first thing was, okay, let's go sit outside. So we sat outside, and at that point I was like, fresh air again, oxygen. What of it.
Yeah, and it goes back into what I said right at the beginning of the show, which I know you weren't here, but it was one of those things where we talked about breathing, relaxing, adjusting, and then speaking. and it's one of those things to where you have to be able to have a system in place. And whenever you clearly identify that, hey, something is about to get, and I don't really want to use the word trigger, but maybe that is an appropriate word. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a better word. But, when things do tend to trigger certain things, whether it's overwhelm, whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, whether it's something, it's really up to you to identify that, to know, okay, here it comes. Now what do I do? And then when you can feel it or know that it's coming, and then you know what the action is in order to alleviate that before it does overwhelm you, you can minimize the effect. Otherwise, it will affect you. So when you discover those things and you can minimize the effect before it affects you, that's powerful right there. But that's you being in tune with yourself.
Yeah, and sometimes you start to get annoyed. Like I've got a rental car right now, and the board computer started rambling about take this exit, that exit, and it doesn't have GPS on it, but it started rambling about the warnings for the police, and then it just repeated itself, and I was getting totally stressed out. I mean, I was driving a different car on the Spanish roads, which I never done before. Well, I did, but downtown. So I was like, and she kept on going. I was like, I need to mute her. At some point I was like, oh, I want to grab the board computer and throw it out the window. So I really had to shut it down. And that helped. Yeah. The moment I shut her down, I was like, okay, I can do this. It's not that different. Yeah. It's actually better than driving on the Dutch roads in the dark. So, and that's what I need to do.
I love it. All right, so we've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes now. We're going to go ahead and wind the show down here. So I want to give an opportunity here for final thoughts. I know that, Lexi, you just joined us here, but we have been on for an hour and 10 minutes. We have other things to do here tonight. But I just wanted to kind of wind the show down, get to the after party. And that's where the magic really happens, is the after party. So we'll try not to, carry on too much in the after party, because I do need to be up front. I do have some things going on tonight that I need to get ready. Tomorrow's a really big day, so we need to go to bed early tonight in preparation for tomorrow. But tonight, for the last hour and 10,
What's going to happen tomorrow?
We'll talk about that in the after show. So for the last hour and 10 minutes, we have been talking about how to stop being overwhelmed. And it's those little moments in life that really can be, well, for lack of a better way of saying it, overwhelming. It's one of those things to where if you don't have systems in place, if you don't have mechanisms in place, if you don't have those little things in place that will help you prevent overwhelm before it happens, it can get the best of you. Once again, it's that effect versus affect. And my final words are here is that breathe, relax, adjust, speak. So for me, being a professional speaker, it's one of those things that before I speak, whether I'm on a stage or not, or whether I'm, on a platform like this or not, whether I'm putting on a show or not, I have to understand that before I allow my 15-pound mouth to override my 5-pound behind, I need to breathe, relax, adjust, speak. And it's really important that you understand that you know that you have a little system in place that whenever those moments do arise, and trust me when I say this, they will arise. You'll throw a temper tantrum. You will get overwhelmed. You will totally just react versus acting accordingly. You don't want those moments to happen, because here's the thing. They will embarrass you. And before things get out of hand, before a situation gets out of hand, you need to maintain control. And then you need to understand that, like Miss Mary says, prevention is better than the cure. Because once you let things get out of hand, at that moment, you're more focused on the cure than the prevention. So breathe, relax, adjust, speak. That's prevention. That's a system. Because once you say what you say, now you're dealing with the cure, the after effects. Now you're having to defend yourself, so to speak. So think about it. All right, so those are my final words, and that's kind of interesting because usually I go last here, but I will go last, but I won't have final words. But I want to turn it over to Lexi before we turn things over to Bonnie. And I just want to get Lexi's final words on being overwhelmed, how to deal with overwhelm, you talked about taking breaks, and I know that's important. But what are your final thoughts about being overwhelmed and how to prevent it?
Know yourself, know how you react, know your triggers, and then you can start adjusting. But it's all about paying attention. And if you don't pay attention, just go on, that's not going to work. But once you pay attention, like what it is, what are the triggers, what's helping for you, what's working against you, then you will find a routine which works for you.
I love it. Lexi, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and neatly tuck you back down backstage, and you can join us in the after party here very shortly. But I just wanted to say first and foremost, that shirt looks absolutely stunning on you. You look amazing in that shirt. I love it. Bonnie does great work, doesn't she? I 100% love it. All right, Lexi, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and tuck you backstage again and turn things over to Bonnie. All right, Bonnie, man, great conversation tonight. We talked about a lot of different things about being overwhelmed. We put some systems in place. We shared some tips, tools, techniques. Before I turn it over to you, because I want to give you just an opportunity real quick, but I wanted to share something that Elaine shared here. And he says, find the ways to get to know the clues that you can use to avoid getting overwhelmed in the first place. And that's really comes down to knowing more about yourself. And the more you know about yourself, you can deal with those situations. It's a matter of gaining those strengths, having the knowledge, the skills, the experience to be able to, know yourself and know the situation, know how you act, know how you react when certain things get into play. You and I, Bonnie, we talked about this battle book a while back and how I have these battle drills and I have these, things like if this, then that, if this happens, this is going to be my action, not my reaction, but my action. And when you put these little systems in place, once again, it gives you that plan of action because what gets planned gets done. Now, we often can't, put into play everything. We can't think of everything. But, sometimes you may have to have that battle book in place. You may have to have those ideas in place. You may have to put those little things, triggers, clues, whatever label you want to put on it so that you don't get overwhelmed in the first place. So I wanted to highlight what Elaine pointed out there first and then turn it over to you. Bonnie, what are your final thoughts? Great conversation tonight.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a great conversation. And really, my final thoughts was really kind of in alignment with what Lady Lexi said and what Elaine said. It's really a lot of what I teach in my coaching program is identification, understanding, knowing what it is that bothers you, and then breaking it up and figuring out are these things that I have control over or not? And if they are things that you have control over, then you do need to take action. You need to change things, whether that's routines, whether that's what you're eating, whatever the case is, leaving earlier for work, because those are all situations that create anxiety and create overwhelm if we let them. And then looking at the things that we can't necessarily control, which is the actions of other people, is really just focusing on our responses, changing our reactions to responses to those people. And also I use a lot of reframing techniques. And so all of these different things that we've talked about tonight are great. And it's really just about putting together kind of a package, if you will, that works for you, because what's going to work. Breathing is pretty straightforward across the board, but I know some people who get actually more angry when you tell them to take a deep breath than if you don't. And so you want to package things up in a custom way for you, what works for you. And that's really the best way to beat overwhelm, is learning what works best for you.
I love it. Bonnie, thank you very much. Great conversation tonight. Great topic. I'm glad that we come up with it 5 minutes before, we actually went live. So tonight was a little bit unused. Like, what do we do? I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. I got this going on. I got that going on. So I'm truly glad that, even at the last minute, we're able to come up with such a great conversation, such a great topic. And that's what I love about us. No matter what it is, the value that each of us bring to the table and how we're able to discuss that, talk it through, bring our knowledge, our skills, and more importantly, our experiences to the table. Share that with other like-minded people. And I know we had some friends that were unable to join us tonight, and that's fine. I understand that we have people, around the world that are doing different things. And we don't mind listen mode only. And, and I don't mind sharing right here on the screen and everything if you do have things going on. No worries. We truly do understand. Trust me when I tell you that I get overwhelmed on a lot of things. But once again, it ties hand in hand. It ties hand in hand with what somebody asked me a while back about being motivated, inspired. And I was like, I'm not always motivated. I'm not always inspired. I'm committed. And when you're committed, you're going to do things whether you're overwhelmed or not, whether you feel like it or not, whether you want to do this thing or not, because you know what? It doesn't really matter if something needs to get done, wants to get done. When you reshape that and you understand that it must get done, it's a priority. It's a bottom line up front. It is the most important thing that I must get done today in order to consider the day a success. When you reshape that, when you modify, tweak, or change and put that within your mind and take action on that, live that, eat that, breathe that, sleep that, you will understand that no matter what happens to you, whether it's struggle, hardship, adversity, roadblocks, whatever it is that gets in the way, it doesn't really matter, because you know what? Life happens. But no matter what happens, do not let life get in the way of living. My name is Terry Thompson, along with my co-host here, Bonnie, and I just want to say thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next Friday. We go live every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Once again, show your support. And Bonnie created this absolutely amazing little printout right here that I'm going to bring up here on the screen. It is the I Am Unbreakable printout with the hashtag My Unbreakable Story. So here's what you do. Here's exactly what I want you to do. If you're watching this stream, I want you to head on over to our website, which is unbreakablestories.com. There you will see a link that says share. Okay, share your support. So I want you to go to unbreakablestories.com/share. And on there, you will see all of the instructions on how you can print out this simple, easy little sheet right here. If you don't have a printer, no worries. Just download that on your phone, download it on your tablet, download it on your computer, and sit back and take a selfie of yourself with that image right there. Show your support for the things that we're doing here at Unbreakable Stories. It would truly mean a lot to us. And once again, while you're there, have a look around. Miss Bonnie created an absolutely amazing t-shirt. And, and I love wearing it. It's super comfortable. I know Lexi, she showed her unbreakable pride tonight and let the world know that she is unbreakable. Once again, share with the world that you are unbreakable. Bonnie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. Hope everyone has an amazing evening.
All right, we'll see y'all next week. And let's